Hello. It is a very rainy and cold day in Melbourne today, and I had no idea what I wanted to read, so I thought I'd let the weather pick my TBR. How is that going to work, I hear you ask? Well, that's a very fair question, but don't fret because I'm here to explain it all to you. I have a very long TBR, but I took out all of the books that I knew I would absolutely skip and re-roll and rig this video so that I didn't have to read. So ChatGPT has a list of 22 books that I am more than happy to read. The temperature outside, the degrees Celsius, is going to be the number that corresponds to a number on the list. There are 22 books and it's winter in Melbourne, so I'm pretty confident that the weather is not going to go over 22 degrees. In fact, I don't even think it's going to go past 16. The highs for the entire weekend are 12. So let's randomize this list. Oh my god. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I'm actually genuinely so glad. Very happy with this. Thank you to Melbourne being 9 degrees. Thank you to ChatGPT for working with me and giving me Book Lovers by Emily Henry at number 9. I don't have a physical copy of this book, so this is going to be on the Kindle, but let's get started on our first book. Okay, we are on page 66, which is 19%, and I love it so far. Like, how does she do it? Emily Henry is just one of those writers that some of her books I love, some of her books I'm like, yeah, that's okay, like it wasn't my favorite. What stays the same for all of her books is that her writing style is just like chef's kiss for me. Like, I love it. You have anything you'd like to say? On page 44, I have a highlight. If my professionalism is a gel manicure, then Charlie Lastra is apparently the industrial-grade acetone capable of burning right through it. 19% and it's looking good. But I have washing to sort, so I'm going to swap over to the audiobook for a chapter or two while I get some cleaning done. The weather has cleared up and the balcony is now a very nice place to be, so I'm going to do some reading out here for a little bit. Just past page 100, I'm at 102, 29% through. I am at James's now. We were watching the Olympics for a bit. The Australians absolutely, the female Australians, I should say, the women absolutely demolished their relay heat, naturally. And I am halfway through Book Lovers, well 48%, but as long as there's no fucking narcs in here, I think I'll get away with it. I am genuinely loving it. I am almost like loving it to the point where I'm scared something's gonna go wrong in like the story or the writing and I'm not gonna like it anymore. I trust Emily Henry. The more I read of her work, the more I'm like, yeah, I get why. Like, she's not overhyped. She's an amazing writer in this time in which that we live, in the context of time. My hopes are high. The banter between the main character and the love interest is just like, oh, so good. And just the story in general, like there's nothing in it, like nothing that I dislike. There hasn't been a choice made yet where I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. I'm liking all of it. So that is my midway check-in. I had a Coca-Cola. They tend to do that to me. I just finished Book Lovers, and boy, am I a lover of that book. I had a feeling I was gonna love that book. I don't know what it was. I'm a big fan of going into books without really knowing anything about what it's about. Like, I never read blurbs. But aside from this being highly rated on Goodreads, I also just genuinely trust Emily Henry to give me a story that I'm gonna enjoy. Let's make a coffee and I'll give you my further thoughts. This was everything I needed it to be. Long story short, this was a 5-star read for me. Like, genuinely. Rat sticking to China on the couch, if you can hear that. She's a high achiever. The story did exactly what I needed it to do. There wasn't a single moment of that book where I felt like it was plateauing, or that I fatigued, or that I thought, ugh, where's this going? Even, you know, the ending, like, it was almost like a false start happy ending. And there were parts there where I was kind of stressed. I was like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, guys, we're gonna make the right choice, right? But then it came together so beautifully. And something I really enjoyed about this storyline is that I'm not really like the main character. I suppose if you boil it down to something really simple, she's a bit of a control freak, but naturally it does all stem down from past traumas and like her upbringing and things like that. She wants to make the people around her safe, like her sister and things like that. And so she's always been a high achiever and worked really hard in order to fulfill this role, almost like a maternal role, like the protector. And so, you know, there's a part in the book where it does start to unravel a bit for her, and she sees a situation that she can't fix. She can't make it right. The way Emily Henry wrote that character and the way she spiraled in this scene, I'm not like that character, but she wrote it so well that I could completely understand. Like, the character was doing things and I wasn't pissed off. I was like, oh damn, like I wouldn't do that if I were the character, but I'm not the character. And Emily Henry just wrote it so well. I feel like I'm just rambling, but like that's how I feel about the book. I was kicking my feet. Did you see that? I loved Charlie. Something else I really enjoyed, which is actually really similar to the reason I enjoyed Yellowface so much, is that I love books that take you on almost an educational journey of an industry. So in this case, it's publishing. Yellowface was similar in that sense that I was so excited and just genuinely really intrigued by how the industry works. It made it so enjoyable to read, apart from the storyline. I was learning things about the publishing and the writing industry, and you get that in this book as well. It makes me want to be an editor or a writer so bad, but the publishing industry is so competitive, obviously, and I can't be bothered to go back to uni for another 3 years. I just said another like I finished my uni. The Hexstead is still there though. I'm so glad I read this. I'm so glad I got this picked for me. Thank you, ChatGPT, we all say in unison. I actually think this is better than Happy Place for me. Yeah, I think I put this higher than Happy Place for me. There's a lot of blue in the sky. It's partly cloudy, so I suppose it's time for the weather to pick our next read. In Melbourne, it is currently 10 degrees. So we're gonna randomize the list, and whatever book is number 10, that's what we're reading today. The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. I'll stop. We're getting spoiled. We are actually getting spoiled. I just recently read The Women by Kristin Hannah, and it was my first of her novels that I've read, and I loved it. So, okay, what is that about? Stop it. Stop it. Ooh, we love a bit of escapism. We're going to Alaska, baby. We're going to Alaska. Pack your jacket. We're going to Alaska. We're up to page 113, which is 21% through. I'm loving the story so far. For a little bit, I wasn't entirely sure like what the main crux of the story was going to be. Obviously, the bulk of the beginning is them packing up and heading to Alaska, but I didn't really stop to consider that like once they're there, like what is the story actually going to be? It seems to have revealed itself in a way, and it's a very interesting kind of doomsday concept. I don't mean that there's actually like a doomsday event occurring in the book. It's just that like there's characters in it that subscribe to that idea. I'm liking where it's going. I'm liking it so much that I'm pretty sure we're going to easily get through this one today. I love when people ask me what I did over the weekend. I'm like, that's it. The weather is just so bipolar today. If you're not from Australia, you might not know the phrase about Melbourne being 4 seasons in one day. Like when I tell you we are getting one of those days today, it started rainy and then it cleared up and then it started pouring again. Then it hailed and now it's like partly cloudy again. Long story short, it's a good day to stay inside anyway. Also, this is a great winter book. The Alaskan winter and the wilderness. God damn it, I want to live in Alaska so bad. Or like Canada. I love that landscape. Like if I could move to a little shack on a piece of land, like I don't even mind about bears. Let them take me. I've had a good run. Maybe one day. In the meantime, I'll live vicariously through this family. %through. Kristin Hannah, I can tell, is about to become like one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite author. She is a seriously good storyteller. I have no idea where this story is going, but I am 100% along for the ride. It has so much substance. Like I'm sitting here, my heart is breaking in some scenes. I have hope for the characters. I care about what's going to happen to them. Sometimes that feels rare in a book, you know? Sometimes you're there and the story is good, but like whether the characters end up in a certain situation or not, like kind of neither here nor there sometimes for me. But with this, at the same time as me just being along for the ride, I actually care about the characters. I actually care whatever outcome they find themselves in. Oh, I'm just like, it's kind of funny because, oh, hello. Do you have anything to say? Hello. So I finished The Great Alone last night. I am in shock at the caliber of my TBR. Like when you actually stop to think about that this is randomized and that I've just hit the luck of the draw with 2 books in a row. I know I said this before, but like I can pretty confidently say now, Kristin Hannah is like up there for me in terms of like favorite author. This is only the second thing of hers that I've read, but as soon as I finished this, I downloaded The Nightingale because I was just like, I love her writing. She is just, before anything else, an amazing storyteller, has clearly done her research to the bone for all of these topics. This book was heartbreaking. It was beautiful and it was genuinely heartbreaking. At times it reminded me of The Shining. I haven't read The Shining by Stephen King, but the movie, the idea that like they kind of go away somewhere in the cold and remoteness makes the father go mad, like that element was in it. I stopped getting up to turn the camera on to get like footage of me reading toward the end because I was just honestly so engrossed in the book and I didn't want any interruptions. Like I just wanted to I cared more about the characters than I did about this YouTube video. That was so special. I give that one a 4.5. It was also nice to come from The Women, which I believe is her newest release, and that was the first of her books that I've read. To go from that to this, it's like a really good order to read them in, because in The Women, you go through the actual Vietnam War and the immediate consequences in terms of like PTSD and things like that. But this one is set after the war and the father has been to Vietnam and he's still dealing with the PTSD and the nightmares and things like that. And that plays a big part into why they moved to Alaska in the first place and his, you know, his behavior. But then it begs the question, like, how much of it can you blame on the war and how much of his behavior is just ingrained in him? Did Alaska just bring this version of him out and it was there all along? Big fan of going to movies without seeing the trailer. Big fan of reading books without reading the blurb, so I had no idea that this had anything to do with like domestic violence. Really beautiful read, 4.5 stars. But now it is time to pick our next read. The weather today, awful. I couldn't see buildings because of fog this morning. Is that plant just in your way? Actually, no, it can stay. It lives here. Just kidding, I moved it for you. It was 5 degrees this morning, so let's re-roll and see what we get at number 5. Okay, here we go. The Inheritance Games? Okay, that one's a bit of a wild card for me. I completely forgot A, that book existed, B, that it was on my TBR. Let's throw a C in there for good measure, that I am actually interested in reading. Okay, let's read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. We are 61% through the Inheritance Games. I understand regular protocol would be to check in at the 50% mark, but just for a minute I want you to forget about protocols. I want you to imagine your life without limits. But mainly we're doing this at 61% because the book is going very quickly and I didn't realize. It's good. Like, it's nothing crazy. I'm not anticipating like a crazy review at the end of this. The proof is in the pudding that I'm reading it quite quickly. It is a page turner and the story moves very quickly in a good way. The chapters, some of them are only like 2 pages long. So it makes it very easy to just churn through multiple chapters and then just forget how far you've come through it. Yeah, the only thing I'm not liking so far is like, it feels like they're trying to force a romance into this, and I just feel like this story could definitely exist without a romance. I'm enjoying it though. This should be a quick, easy read. Hello, I'm literally just about to go out to dinner, so I have to make this very quick. I finished the Inheritance Games last night. I give that one 3 stars. Not a bad 3 stars. It just didn't have enough to it to make me go like, wow, this is amazing. You know, like it was a fun read, but not necessarily something that I'm gonna rave about. If I could describe this book in one sentence, it would be Knives Out, but for teenagers. I loved the Knives Out movie. Not a massive fan of the second one, who is, but they did something really special with that first one, and this book gave me mega Knives Out vibes. But funnily enough, on a higher asset and money scale, yet a lower age range. Like, this is definitely, in my opinion, catered more toward teenagers, young adults. Sometimes I just forget that I'm a 26-year-old lady, 27 by the time you're watching this, because tonight is my birthday dinner, and tomorrow I turn 27 years old. But yeah, I think sometimes I just forget that I'm not necessarily the main audience or like intended audience for the book. Having said that though, I really did like how fast it was. I think that regardless of whether you're a book person or not, like you could pretty easily smash this out on a weekend or on a holiday. The romance wasn't necessarily something that I think I had space for, if that makes sense. I think the writing style of the romance was just a little bit too cliche, if I can use that word. Like, constant, like, I shouldn't be doing this. Constant flashbacks and italics of other people warning her against getting involved with a boy in the family. No one ever comes out alive. At times I was like, I get it, babe, forbidden fruit and all that, I hear you. But I think at the end of the day it just comes down to the fact that I didn't make space for a romance in this novel, so when it came along I was like, okay. But that is all she wrote for this video. If you read any of the books that I read in this video, or you have already read them, please let me know what your thoughts were. And if you have any recommendations, please give me your recommendations. And I will see you guys next time.